Good morning. It is Friday, October 3rd. A Fox News alert. Another American diagnosed with the Ebola virus. This, as we learn, the first infected man lied to get into America. Is the United States prepared to deal with this? The director of the CDC joins us live seconds from now.
And when times get tough at the White House, just blame Fox.
While good, affordable health care might seem like a fanged threat to the freedom of the American people on Fox News, it turns out it's working pretty well in the real world.
Really? But is that strategy working with the American people?
Meanwhile, from Oscar-winning actor to motivational speaker?
You know at the end of the day when you lie your head on your pillow. I knew it. I knew it. Because I made that stuff.
That's great. The story behind that inspirational pep talk from a big movie star. Thanks very much for joining us. You're watching Fox and Friends live from New York City.
Can't take my eyes off you. You'd be like heaven to touch.
Well, you thought Elizabeth was cute. Elizabeth, I think you might be beat this morning.
Well, this might be that combo, right? It's like a raccoon slash
Is that the
monkey slash ferret combo.
That is one of the stars of Nat Geo's Exotic Animals ER is going to be here talking about animals in the wild that just need a little bit of help.
But they
With a lot of love.
They live in suburbia.
Right.
I know.
And they're helping out.
Indeed.
And we're
All right,
going
we'll
to
have good
cuddle
lunch
with them
shortly.
soon.
In the meantime, we start with a Fox News alert this morning. An NBC cameraman working in Liberia with Dr. Nancy Schneiderman is now the fourth American to have contracted Ebola in West Africa.
And airlines and government officials search for hundreds of others who may have come in contact with Thomas Duncan, the American who tested positive and is currently in Texas.
This as we learned that he lied on his exit form so that he could leave Liberia. He denied contact with Ebola patients, though even we know that he helped several people before even hopping on the plane. We are joined now by the CDC director, Tom Frieden.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Doctor.
It's great to have you here. You know, obviously concerns are being raised time and time again. Every second we seem to find out that another protocol wasn't followed when it comes to Ebola. Let me just start with this. We're learning as well that the officers in Texas actually went into the apartment of the first individual who had contacted Ebola to do some cleanup. They were ordered to do so. Would you have sent those police officers there into this apartment that was supposed to be quarantined?
You know, the apartment is a complicated issue because it is soiled, so they're cleaning it with bleach, and they need to remove the waste safely. This is an issue that's taken longer than we all would have wished to resolve, but I'm confident it will get resolved today.
Should officers be going in there to get papers signed, though, if they are not indeed from
In
the
a
Department of
hazmat
Health?
suit.
Yeah, I mean, in full protection? Is that protocol?
You don't need a hazmat suit to go into an apartment. The way Ebola spreads is by direct contact with someone who's sick with Ebola or their body fluids.
Right.
Okay.
Doctor, a couple of days ago you joined us because people were very concerned. One of the things we asked you about was about the screening process, where people are getting on airplanes, and you depicted how we've got people in the West African countries and they're being scanned for their temperature. Well, maybe it's time now to think about a travel ban, because as we've learned from Mr. Duncan, if you're sick, you can get in this country simply by lying on the declaration form. That's what he did.
Well, he wasn't sick. He was exposed, and his temperature was 97.3 when he left Monrovia. He didn't expose anyone on the travel. He got sick 4 or 5 days after he got here.
He did lie on the form, because one of the questions is, have you been in contact? Have you actually touched the body of anybody with Ebola? And as the New York Times is told, and as you know, he did just that. He lied, and had he not lied, I would imagine he would not have been allowed in.
Sir, how many more people will have to come in here and not fully disclose who they've been in contact with before these travel restrictions are put in place? How much longer will this nation have to wait to be fully protected at the border when it comes to this disease?
Well, you know, I wish we could get to zero risk by sealing off the border, but we can't. The only way we're going to get to zero risk in this country is by controlling it in Africa. Until that happens, Americans may come back with Ebola. Other people who have a right to return or a visa to enter may come back. People will go to third countries and come from there. So sealing them off, first off, won't work. Second off, it will backfire.
Because if we can't get help in there,
then we're not going to be able to stop the outbreak, and ultimately we will end up at higher risk, not lower risk.
Hey, I know you're in a tough position, but the problem is if you're going to count on people to be candid, and thousands here can be risked, if someone chooses to lie, I think we're in trouble. We had another doctor come forward and say he really believes the CDC is asleep at the switch. Listen.
It says we're screening at airports. There's no thermal screening. They didn't ask where I'd been. They didn't ask if I'd been sick, nor any other arriving patients in the international concourse. They asked if I had tobacco or alcohol. That is it. The CDC is asleep at the wheel. With 10,000 people leaving West Africa a day, we need to be thermal scanning and be on our toes and tell doctors to be ready for it. Not that it's a rare chances of it happening.
So he wanted a hazmat suit. And he wanted to underline the problems. What's your reaction?
We are doing very good temperature screening where it's going to be most efficient. That is where they have a few hundred people leaving each day. We're using approved devices, trained staff, checking every person who's leaving each of the 3 countries to see if they have a fever. To screen people here, instead of a few hundred, it would be a few 100,000. It would be inaccurate. And this is the way that we think we're going to be most effective at keeping people who are having a fever from getting on planes.
What is, you know, there are many people who have many questions, and you and the CDC have been very clear. It's impossible to catch it unless you have direct contact with the person and body fluids and stuff like that. What do you want people to know on this Friday morning? Because people all across the country, doctor, are really worried about this.
I understand. This is a scary disease because it has such a severe course. It can be fatal in such a high proportion of cases. What we're doing now in Texas is stopping it in its tracks. We're making sure that we identify everyone who may have had contact with the patient, monitoring each and every one of them for 21 days, and the moment they show any symptoms that could be Ebola, testing them, isolating them, and making sure it doesn't spread further, breaking the chains of transmission. We can do that. I have no doubt in my mind we will stop it here from spreading widely. But ultimately, we're only going to be completely safe if we stop it in Africa.
Absolutely. Just one other question for you about the Ebola virus. You know, it's all about touching somebody who has it and has all the symptoms right then. But doesn't the Ebola virus, doesn't it live on surfaces? I read a report this morning that it can be alive for up to 6 days in the perfect circumstance.
You know, generally, it's not a very hardy virus. So it's easily killed by soap and water, by hand sanitizer, by bleach, and it doesn't last long in most circumstances. You can always come up with a scenario where, well, what if this happened and what if this happened? But that's kind of the slippery slope to zero risk. The fact is it doesn't last long in the environment.
What is the latest, sir, on the individual in Hawaii?
We've had over 100 people who have had travel and may have had exposures who we've helped state and local health departments and doctors assess. The one patient in Texas is the only one who's panned out as having Ebola.
So nothing on Hawaii that we should know because we haven't heard anything in about 24 hours?
No concern for Ebola there.
All right, so no thumbs up or thumbs down, or we just don't know?
Are we within that
No
21-day period where we could know in 18 days from now that is not the case there as it regards the individual we're speaking about?
Are you talking about Hawaii or Texas?
Hawaii.
No, no Ebola in Hawaii.
All right.
Period.
That is some good news. All right, Dr. Tom Frieden, the director of the CDC in Atlanta. Sir, thank you very much.